Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Smash JT. Previously I did the NES Budget Gamer, and I got a lot of really good feedback on that, so I figured why not do a Super Nintendo Budget Gamer? And when I started researching, I realized, holy crap, Super Nintendo games are really expensive, but there are 10 really good games under $10, so it's worth making this episode and putting the effort into editing. Alright, and just like my previous episodes with the N64 Budget Gamer and the Nintendo Entertainment System Budget Gamer, these are going to be in order from cheapest to most expensive, not necessarily from worst to best, although it kind of works out that way anyways. Now the first game I'm going to talk about is Vegas Stakes. This is the best Vegas simulator on the Super Nintendo, in my opinion, by far. Right now it's about $5 shipped, which really isn't too bad for a really fun Vegas simulation. There's another game that came out called Super Caesar's Palace. This one's $4, but not nearly as good as Vegas Stakes. So if you're looking for a good gambling simulator for the Super Nintendo, Vegas Stakes is where it's at.
Changing 500!
And you could even use the mouse in these games, which was really cool too.
Has anybody ever told you before of your bad luck?
Those were my mother's dying words.
The player is given $1,000 and the goal is to win $10 million. When the player loses all the money, the game ends. Vegas Stakes features blackjack, poker, craps, roulette, and slot machines. Nintendo Power praised the Super Nintendo version for its realistic gambling games and its 4-player mode with the multi-tap. While not the most amazing game ever created for the Super Nintendo, for $5 you really can't go wrong with it. The next game I want to talk about is a fairly well-known puzzle game that I was surprised is under $10. Zoop for the Super Nintendo is only $5 shipped on eBay right now. It's a really fun puzzle game with really terrible monotonous music. But if you can get past that or play your own music over the game, it's a lot of fun to play it, matching colors with different lines. It starts off fairly easy, but gets extremely challenging as time goes on. Released in 1995 and available for pretty much every console that was out back then, the player controls a triangle in the center of the screen, and every second, or more often in advanced levels, a piece comes in from the side and stacks pieces forward. And a little fun fact about this game, to spark interest for the release, Blockbuster Video offered the game as a free rental for the Super Nintendo for a limited time. The next game I want to talk about, I actually never even heard of before doing research for this episode, so naturally I had to download the ROM for sample purposes only before purchasing it on eBay. Spin Dizzy Worlds right now is $7 shipped. If you've never heard of Spin Dizzy Worlds or played it before, it's basically like Marble Madness, but it's a lot more advanced, and it's a ton of fun. Full disclosure, the first 5 minutes I played this, there was zero hand-holding, and I had no idea what the hell I was doing, so give it more than 5 minutes before you say I hate this game, because if you give it a good, solid try, chances are you'll actually really like it. And because I never actually heard of it before, it's a true hidden gem. Spin Dizzy Worlds is a physics-based puzzle game published by Activision and first released on the Amiga in 1990. It was later released on the Super Nintendo in 1993 by ASCII Entertainment. The player controls a spinning top kind of robotic device named Gerald, which is an acronym for Geographical Environmental Reconnaissance and Land Mapping Device. The top that the player controls moves similar to the marbles in Marble Madness. However, I found the game more fulfilling than Marble Madness because the levels were far larger and there was a greater variety of enemies and hazards, and also puzzles based on finding and pressing switches in the correct order. It was just a really fun game overall. The next game I want to talk about is probably the best platforming experience you can have for under $10 on the Super Nintendo. Tiny Toon Adventures Buster Bust Loose is a ton of fun for $8 shipped.
Look, everybody! It's Buster and Babs! Hey, where's Madonna?
We didn't say Madonna.
We said Fadonna.
Hello.
While a fairly short game overall, and some parts of it are extremely frustrating, like the football level, if you can get past that though, it's a ton of fun for the price. Buster Bust Loose was published, developed, and released by Konami in 1992. The game features Buster Bunny in a side-scrolling adventure, and there are a total of 6 levels in the game when played normally. The 5th level is removed during easy mode. Buster's objectives vary from level to level, ranging from feeding Dizzy Devil so he stops destroying the kitchen, to defeating Duck Vader. One of my favorite parts about this game is after completing each level, the player is given a chance to earn extra lives by playing mini-games, and the type of minigame is determined by spinning a wheel, and it's really fun. The next game I'm going to talk about is the absolute best multiplayer experience you can have on the Super Nintendo for under $10. Super Baseball Simulator 1.000. I always just call it Baseball Simulator 1000. This is so much fun though. It's like a role-playing game mixed with baseball, and if you like baseball just a little bit, it's the best baseball game on the Super Nintendo, and you can't beat the price for $8 shipped. Super Baseball Simulator 1000 came out in 1991, and it's a sequel to the NES game Baseball Simulator 1000. In the game, there are 3 leagues, Atlantic, Northern, and Ultra. Each league has 6 teams, and the Ultra League has pitchers and batters that have special power-ups that boost their abilities. Using the Ultra League gives the player a surrealistic feel that is rare in the sports genre. Players can even create their own baseball teams and assign special moves to the players that they name themselves. You have a certain amount of stat points that you can assign throughout your team. You can make some super powerful and some super weak. It's a really fun game, and it's definitely worth a shot for the price. Now hear me out on this next one before you go crazy. This is the only time you will ever hear me recommend a game made by LJN. SpiderMan XMen Arcade Revenge for $9 shipped right now on eBay. It's an extremely challenging and punishing game, and it's a really fun platforming action-adventure game. If you can get past being made by LJN, just look at it for a game on its own. It's a lot of fun. Released in 1992, the player controls Spider-Man in the first level, and that level serves as more or less a tutorial for the rest of the game. After completing the initial level, then you move on to being able to select the character you want to play as. You can play Spider-Man's levels, Storm's levels, Wolverine's, Gambit's, or Cyclops. They all have their own unique levels and abilities, and it makes for a really good variety in gameplay. Just be prepared to throw your controller a few times because there's a lot of really cheap parts in this game as well. Another really fun multiplayer game for the Super Nintendo under $10 is NBA Jam. Maybe not nearly as fun as Baseball Simulator 1000, but pretty damn good in its own right. There have been better versions that have come out since then, but as far as basketball games on the Super Nintendo, nothing beats the original NBA Jam. Originally released in the arcades in 1993, this is one of those games similar to Street Fighter II that, when it was ported to the consoles a year later in 1994, it completely destroyed the arcade industry. NBA Jam was one of the biggest hits at the arcade, and when you could actually bring it home and play it at the house, it changed the entire game. And of course, this was one of those games that if you had the multi-tap with 3 friends over, this game really shined with 2-on-2 action. The next game I want to talk about is an extremely well-known title that I was shocked was under $10. The original Pilot Wings is just $9 and change shipped to your house on eBay right now. And if you don't own Pilot Wings and you're looking to start a Super Nintendo collection, Pilot Wings is definitely one you want to add to it. The flight controls and the different simulations of going through the rings was revolutionary for the time, and it's still a blast to play today. Pilot Wings was released as a launch title for the Super Nintendo in August 1991, and is an amateur flight simulator game in which the player attempts to earn pilot licenses through lessons in light plane flight, hang gliding, skydiving, and the use of a rocket belt. Bonus stages and levels involving an attack helicopter were also available. This game has a ton of variety, and the physics engine is spot on. Now the only game on this list that was actually on my top 10, because it's the only one that's under $10 from that list, is the original Sim City. I can't believe this game is only $9 and change on eBay right now, shipped. If you've never played the original SimCity for Super Nintendo, or you own a Super Nintendo and don't own this, get it now, because this game's going up in price. I remember a couple years ago I checked, it was like $4 or $5, and now it's almost $10? That's crazy. Grab it now before it gets too expensive. It's an awesome game. There's not too much more that I can say about this game that I didn't already say about it in my top 10 Super Nintendo games. However, after researching this, I found out that a debug menu was found more than 18 years after the game released. And there's just a code, I'll put it on the screen now, that you need to put in with controller 2 at the goodbye screen, and you'll have a debug menu. This is incredible. It's pretty cool. I gotta try this out now. It allows you to turn off disasters, gives you all the money you need, and lets you change the land value, water reclaim. Oh my god, I wish I knew this when I was a kid. I would have played this game even more than I already do. The last game I'm going to talk about today is one that you guys probably never even heard of or played before, but it's a true hidden gem, and one of my all-time favorite games from the Super Nintendo. If I had a top 15 or 20, this would be number 11. King Arthur's World for the Super Nintendo is a ton of fun. You play as King Arthur and you control different troops going through worlds trying to accomplish goals. And those different troops have different abilities they can utilize on the battlefield. If you haven't played it before, definitely check it out for just under $10 shipped on eBay right now. This one, out of all the games I'm talking about today, is sure to be worth more than $10 in the future. Oh, and another fun fact about King Arthur's World, you can use the mouse for this too. Released in 1994, the aim of each level is to proceed from the tent that you start at to the finish point. This may require the player to defeat various enemies, avoid traps and obstacles. King Arthur is the only essential character. If he dies, the game is over. This is the one problem that I have with the game is, in later levels, you can't be paying attention to King Arthur, and enemies will come up through the ground and just kill him while you're off doing something else, so a little bit of frustration with this game, but the fun factor more than makes up for that issue. So there you have my top 10 games for the Super Nintendo under $10. And this was really hard to do for different reasons than the N64 and NES. Super Nintendo's library seems far more expensive than the other two I just mentioned, for whatever reason. And there aren't that many games that are under $10 that are worth getting. These 10 that I talked about today are definitely worth getting, which tells me that they're not going to be under $10 in the future. And to those of you commenting to me last time that I would not be able to do a Super Nintendo budget gamer, did I prove you wrong? Let me know in the comments section below what you guys would add to the list, and thank you as always for watching. I'll see you next time. I hope you guys enjoyed my Super Nintendo Budget Gamer episode. Make sure you click subscribe and a thumbs up. Also, I'm going to list my NES Budget Gamer and my Nintendo 64 Budget Gamer. I'll see you guys next time.